and we'll bring on Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Hello.
And because he's actually the one who really, really read this report that came out, Jay.
And when you mean really, really, I mean
really.
only. I mean only.
Yeah, so
that's radio talk for. Please jump in here and SOS.
Save us. So 9:10. We're going to bring on. We have Chip Guard, who's of course the former lead meteorologist for the National Weather Service, and also Landon Aydlett, who is still at the NWS, and both these guys, in conjunction with the Water and Energy Research Institute of the University of Guam, worked on this study that predicts the typhoon season. So we'll bring both these guys up. Chip, Landon, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Chip,
morning.
are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi.
good. Right, morning.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well.
Full disclosure, I don't have a mask on.
I'm going to move back for my mic. So, guys, I guess Jason is our resident armchair weatherman here, and we're going to let him go into the weeds with you guys on this report, Jason.
Well, if my weather game is strong, it's only because of the friendship and the education I've gotten from these two. So, guys, we appreciate you guys coming on it. You know, Chip, before we get into the meat of the discussion, I just want to say I'm reminded of that one scene in Godfather 3. You know, it's like, when Michael Corleone sits there and he's like, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Yeah.
Because obviously none of us, with all of the sophisticated scientific equipment and training and technology and gear that you guys have and everything like that, obviously you could not have predicted the pandemic. That's not your area of expertise when it comes to prediction, but you are able to make forecasts about the weather. So as far as like the report that you guys put out, what type of season are we looking at, and what should we expect going forward?
Yeah, I'll let Landon start out, and then I can fill in the gaps.
Well, I was actually going to hand it off to Chip, but okay. Well, we are looking at an average season this year. The forecaster, the outlook that we have, that ties in closely to the current state of the climate. And the good news is we're not looking at a strong El Nino this year. We are in INSO neutral, or El Nino oscillation neutral conditions. So that means we're kind of in an average pattern for this year. We've only had one tropical cyclone this year, and that was Typhoon Vong Fong. That passed over Palau well to our southwest as a weak disturbance and developed into a typhoon as it made landfall back in May in the Philippines. So you look back to 2015, where we had 7 or 8 tropical cyclones by this time of the year. So we're doing a lot better this year. Looking ahead, though, we have our busy part of the year ahead of us. That's typically July through November, and that's where we see most of the action in the West Pacific. So we do have to always be prepared, and even though we're looking at an average outlook for tropical cyclone activity across this region, it only takes one storm to cause problems for any certain island that's being affected by that. You look back at Super Typhoon U2 in 2018, that was a direct hit to Saipan and Tinian. That's one of our worst fears. Again, it just takes one storm, even if we have a favorable outlook for activity across the region. Otherwise, we could have a season where we expect a lot of activity, and they all miss us. So we do have to keep that perspective and always be prepared.
And of course, maybe the larger concern from a macro view, especially from our friends in the healthcare industry, is coming up on what would be considered in most other markets, our winter season, which for us is rainy anyway. But you've got the flu season, which is going to come around again during those months, and then with weather situations and everything like that, there's going to be the typical lots of colds, lots of health anomalies, and of course they're worried that coronavirus may have a second wave, so obviously, you guys are on the weather prediction side, but I'm sure your information passing through is, going to be appreciated by those guys.
Yeah, we're definitely working closely with our Homeland Security partners here on Guam and in the CNMI, because we do have to take into account the COVID response. How are we going to be operating the shelters with evacuees crowding into these schools? So that's been a discussion going on for a couple months now. People are looking at that, and they are planning for that. So Homeland Security, they're on top of this, and this is across the board, across the United States. All of our partners are looking into this, especially with the spring months, with the tornado season. severe weather. This has been an ongoing conversation, so we are very much on par with that discussion. And so as far as us as Weather Service, our goal is to have the best forecast and give plenty of warning for any kind of threat that we have to the island.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question's not as fancy as Jason's.
Oh, boy.
But I just want to know, you said we're looking at average activity this year for typhoon season, but when are we going to be seeing this activity? What are you guys projecting?
Well, I'll let Chip handle that one. He's got the numbers.
Okay, well, so as Landon indicated, we're in a fairly normal year. And how do we determine it's a normal year? We look at sea surface temperature patterns in the Pacific, and we look at the atmospheric wind patterns in the Pacific, and we look at the wind patterns near the surface, in the middle of the atmosphere, and at the top of the atmosphere. And these temperature patterns and wind patterns fit in the group that is normal. It's neither El Nino nor La Nina, so it's in this so neutral area that we're looking at, and that's pretty much a normal kind of condition. So we're looking at the monsoon is starting to spread across the Philippines now. There's a storm developing over near the Philippines, and so this pretty much is on target. And we expect between now and the middle of July to see 2 to 3 tropical depressions and or tropical storms. Then systems tend to move more toward the north, and but we can still get a storm in July. But as they move north, and then around August, they'll start to move back to the south by September. And so we expect to see more typhoon activity in maybe the late August, September, October, into November timeframe. Once we get out to November, December, there's a little bit of uncertainty because the computer models haven't settled exactly on what's going to happen down in the November, December timeframe. So it's not unusual that we'll have to put out an updated prediction. But right now, this prediction looks pretty good.
Okay.
And right now, I'm looking at the upper level wind patterns, and things looks like maybe some thunderstorms are going to be moving in this weekend, and maybe some disturbances later on in the month.
Okay.
And if I can just cite from your report, Chip, I believe you said that there looks to be maybe a couple storms that may be nearing Category 4 strength, but at least at this point, not necessarily Category 5. And those tend to be, as far as your projections go, maybe about, it said like 200 miles away from us. Was it to the south?
Well, it could be within, let's say, within 100 miles. We could see something.
Okay.
Most likely Category 1, 2, or 3. It's rare to actually get a direct hit by a Category 4 or Category 5 typhoon. But you have to be kind of prepared for those because, like, for example, YouTube, back in 2018, there's no meteorological reason why YouTube couldn't come right over Guam instead of Saipan and Tinian. I mean, they're 100 miles away, and there's absolutely no meteorological reason why we could not have gotten hit instead of them. So these are the kind of uncertainties that you're dealing with. And so we can just tell you that the likelihood that typhoons are going to be in the area is pretty high. Whether they're going to hit us directly, it's very difficult to tell. But like Landon said, you have to be prepared.
Right. So again, as you mentioned, we're looking at possible thunderstorms this weekend. Next month, we'll see some tropical depressions, possibly some tropical storms. And then into August, September, there's a possibility that we may or may not see some typhoons. But at the end of the day, just be ready.
Even July, we could see a typhoon. Usually, if we see a typhoon in July, there's multiple typhoons out there, one say to the northwest, and then another one can develop near us. So by the middle of July through November, we certainly have a chance of having some typhoons, at least in the region.
Well, it's good, Landon, that you said that you guys were in communication with Homeland Security, because if we are looking at seeing some possible typhoons in fall or in September, and that is the projected surge, and we've got a bunch of homeless people that have been waiting for some sort of help, it's good to know that at least we're still talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely in the planning process.
Yeah, Landon, I wanted to ask because, we, as far as other projections, we can kind of like estimate when Guam might go into pandemic condition of readiness 3. That's still kind of like up in the air. But once we start to see these weather systems, regardless of the severity, you guys have always been really, really good at having the heavy weather briefings over at Civil Defense and again at Heights. And, I've attended enough of those alongside UN Chip. And I mean, it's basically standing room only. You've got, the mayors, you've got everybody in emergency response, from the military, from the local government, from the feds. Do you plan right now, because you're someone who's got a real good sense of technology and, doing like the new tools and, boys and their toys, but do you guys plan to do those kind of things like on Zoom so the community in general can kind of, tune in and continue to get the information in real time with that, if we're still not able to gather as we normally would?
Well, there are some concerns with Zoom. So the Weather Service is an agency. We're not permitted to use Zoom, but we do have other video conferencing capabilities.
Okay.
We will continue doing the heavy weather briefs with Homeland Security. I'm not exactly sure at this time what that will look like in a COVID situation. I've been over there a couple times for a series of conferences, and we have been socially distanced with face masks, so it may be something along those lines. But regardless, that support will continue, hopefully with even more lead time, hopefully, because people need to be prepared, especially so they can start planning their process. And this is why we tell people to plan now when there's not a storm threatening the islands. This is where you can think clearly and be ready. So when that happens, you know your actions to take. And so, again, the heavy weather briefs, all the support to our core partners, the Homeland Security offices, that will not go away.
Okay. Good word. Well, I'm going to share a funny story because I remember when Ken Nicholas and we actually went to Landon's office and did a story with one of the post-heavy weather briefings with him and his crew over there. And he was like, hey, what kind of gear are you guys using to do like your Facebook live streams? Because we want to do some more of that stuff. He was like a kid in a candy store, Bree, and he was asking us all this stuff. And Landon, you actually went online and you actually ordered a lot of the same gear that we're using. And I know, we were exchanging messages for about a week back and forth. But certainly you guys have the equipment right now where you guys can, put this stuff on Facebook Live for the benefit of the community.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a little more technically savvy over here because I do want to get more into video production and how we can improve our communications. We have Facebook right now, and I'm working on setting up Twitter. I know a couple of our media partners out here in the region are on Twitter, and I think that's an audience that we can cater to, sending quick tweets on weather alerts and changes in the weather situation.
Oh, God help you when you guys start doing Instagram. You're going to have like people starting to slide into your DMs left and right, right in the middle
I'm already asking
cover
about
weather
Instagram. And right now, the field offices are not approved to use Instagram yet, although our weather headquarters does have an Instagram account. If and when that is approved, I want to hop on Instagram as well. So we have a couple of communications platforms that I do want to get involved in sooner than later and just improve our communication strategy just to get more information out to the public.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are a 24/7 operation, and I've been to your office, and you guys tend to work in kind of like close quarters, and you've got all of that equipment, and the big computer systems and everything like that. Basically, your crew all shares. How has it been for you guys to work in a socially distant operational manner? How have you guys had to change your operations?
Well, luckily, it's not been too difficult for us. We are mandated to wear a face mask at all times in NOAA and Weather Service facilities, but based on our operations floor, our office layout here in the building, we're already socially distant. So if we have 2 or 3 people on duty in the operations area, we have about 10 to 12 feet between each forecaster. So we are already distant. We also wipe down all of our computers, our monitors, our desktops, our chairs before and after each duty shift so that we are clean and ready to go for the next guy to come in.
Oh, very good. So, back to Chip real quick, sir. It's always been a pleasure working with you, and how much more can we expect to see of your research? I guess even if you're not going to be in the office as you were for
Well,
so many decades?
I work with the Weather Service on things like climate and tsunamis and this typhoon forecast, for example. And I also work with Mark Lander, Dr. Lander over at the University of Guam. So while I'm retired, I'm not dead. But we do some training too. Like yesterday, we went up to Retidian Point and we did some surf observer training and also some weather spotter training for the fish and wildlife people up there, and also for some of the National Weather Service forecasters. So, stay a little involved, do stuff that I used to get paid for but it's payback time now. So, anyway, these guys at the Weather Service do a terrific job, and so it's a real pleasure to work with them occasionally.
Yeah, let me add to that, Jason.
Sure.
I like to pick on Chip. I always told him that he's old but not obsolete.
That's a very nice thing to say in a socially distant distant atmosphere where you're away from striking distance. But that's very, very nice.
I will say, and I've made it very known here, it's been such a pleasure working with Chip, and I will not let him stray far from this office. I have him on speed dial and ready to work with him. And so it was great to have him up at Retidian doing some training with us yesterday. It brings back memories of having Chip over here in the office. So I miss having him over here, and so I'm not going to let him get too far away from us.
Now you just can't get rid of him.
I hope to say the same thing about I hope to say the same thing about Chris maybe in about like 20 years when we can hang up our microphones.
From point of personal privilege, Jason. well, guys, again, we wanted to just bring you on and kind of talk about the weather.
Yeah, well, Chris, thanks for lining up Landon, because it makes it a lot easier for because now I'm unofficial, so he's the official guy. And,
well, yeah, again, we'll get you guys, let you get back to crunching whatever weather patterns you're crunching over there.
Yeah, we're crunching tennis.
Yeah,
okay,
you're crunching tennis.
I'm sorry. One thing, final question. What is the preferred quarantine lockdown meal of the meteorologist? What do you guys eat when you're passing the time and you can't go out and do the fancy things that you guys normally do?
My gosh, that's we take anything here. Usually what we can pick up on the way, but I miss having a good buffet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we still like to support the restaurants around, so we'll go get the takeout stuff, but it's really the people that have stayed in business and have done the takeout, and they've done a real service, and so we'd like to support them.
Amen. Well, thanks, guys, and stay in touch. Hopefully, I don't have to call you guys too much, and that usually means the weather's fine. Okay.
Well, you guys take care.
All right. Take care.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Wash your hands.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. 9:28. Thank you for that, Jay. Like I said, he is our resident armchair weatherman. And we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk about disinfecting and cleaning